Hi, I'm Blessed Babs, and this channel exists to help Christians holistically. If you are in low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and also if you're addicted to a substance, namely alcohol, as I was, as an ex-addict myself. So I'm here to help and support you through that, holistically and proactively. In this video, I'm going to discuss what is dopamine and what is its relationship to alcohol and to addiction. So what is dopamine? Dopamine is merely a chemical. It's a neurotransmitter. And it's a misconception that you can be addicted to dopamine because it's a signal in your brain. It's an electrical charge. If you imagine your brain as the electrical system of a car. So dopamine is a chemical that gives off this feel-good signal in your brain. It goes through a rewards pathway. But dopamine isn't just the reward, it also is to do with motivation. It motivates you towards that reward. It's actually a survival chemical in your brain. It tells you that you need this thing, this reward for your survival. So for example, they did a test in mice where they engineered these mice not to have dopamine. They took the dopamine away from them, and in their cages they put food, cheese for example, just a few inches away from the mouse, and it didn't look at it, it didn't touch it, it had no motivation to go to the reward. That's what dopamine does. We weren't engineered ourselves to have such great rewards. Back in the day, thousands of years ago, there was far more pain involved in getting a mate, going to hunt for your food, than skinning an animal and taking its organs out, or hiking up a hill in order to get some food. There was real pain. That's what I talk about of pain. It's not physical pain that somebody's hitting you in the head with a hammer. It's the pain of going to get the rewards, the effort that you put in. And your brain has also like a set of scales. It's a homeostasis, and every organism on the planet that's alive has a homeostasis. It's like the temperature of your body at 37. It just wants to remain at that because you're healthy at that range. If it goes above, if you're hitting 40, you're in danger. So that's what this balancing scale is for in your brain. So when dopamine's coming in at one side, now your dopamine as in gambling, alcohol, porn, even your shopaholics, right, workaholics, any form of fast dopamine. And when it's coming in at speed and at great quantity, the other end of the scale, which is the pain, the effort that you have to take to get that reward. And nowadays there's no effort involved, right? You can get anything delivered to your door, okay? You can swipe right for a husband or a wife on the internet and a dating site. Our brains have been hijacked in this century. So don't feel so ashamed or guilty if you're stuck in addiction, that there are many, many reasons for that. We're in a century where our brains can't cope with it. Our brains have absolutely been hijacked. So dopamine gives you the desire to get the reward, and it's a motivation as well. It motivates you to get that desire. But what happens with these scales is the more dopamine, the more pleasure that's coming in at this end, the other end of the scale, this balancing scale, has to pile on this pain. I call them little pain rocks, okay? Piles on the pain to balance this up. But it gets so tired and fed up with that it just stays there. There's a default now of your pain that's on this end of the scale. So you constantly have to place more dopamine and more on this side to try and balance it up. until there becomes a disconnect. Call this a docking station as well in a spaceship. The spaceship comes along here and this docking station gets taken away because it can't cope anymore. And that's an addicted brain. You have taken away that docking station. So this all happens inside a pleasure pathway where you have a presynaptic neuron that the dopamine is travelling along. And then you have a postsynaptic neuron also, but they don't touch. There is a gap in between, and that's called a synapse. So the dopamine comes along here and it's pulsing these waves out. And this I get this right, postsynaptic neuron is in receipt. But when it's had too much dopamine, this recoils, it involutes into this position, and now the dopamine has nowhere to go. It's no landing, no docking station. And that is an absolute disconnect in your brain, and now you have addicted brain. And in order to turn that around, you have to start changing your habits. You have to start changing the amount of dopamine that's coming in at this end. And it takes about 60 days to change a habit, one habit. So you have to change the habits of the dopamine that's coming in here. And gradually, these scales will start to work in balance again. We automatically seek pleasure over pain. But the problem is that there's too much pleasure out there today. And our brains are overloaded with it in this century. Pain is our friend because it keeps us in check. It keeps that equilibrium. We're far more susceptible to it nowadays. So dopamine is a chemical in our brains, and it's a pleasure-giving chemical, but we needed the pain on the other side of the scales to balance that up. So society nowadays, there's no balance. It's just all in favour of dopamine, all the time. So maybe we shouldn't cut ourselves up too much about being addicted to a certain thing. But especially when it's alcohol, you have to start changing your behaviour. You have to start changing the amount, whether you cut down, whether that's your route out of it, or whether you go into rehab and just absolutely take that away. That's when you're going to get the tremors, the DTs they call them, the withdrawal, because you're withdrawn from that real pleasure, that real stimulus. And it takes a time to get that balance up and running again in your brain. And that's where you get triggers, that's where you get withdrawal symptoms, this is where you get hangovers, this is where you get impulses, doubts, and the fear sets in and the anxiety sets in. This is just your brain trying to rebalance again. Understanding this, for me, was half the battle, and I hope this has helped you. If you find any value in this video, please like, share, subscribe, so that other people can see this. Okay, thanks for your time.